In today's episode, we're looking at 5 people who were eaten alive by farm animals. From a seasoned worker who underestimated his feathered adversaries, to a photographer whose pursuit of the perfect shot cost her everything. But first, we start with a city dweller, where inexperience and panic created a Thanksgiving nightmare. It was November 18, 2013, at Gobbler's Ridge Farm in the rolling hills of North Carolina. The autumn air carried the crisp scent of fallen leaves and the distant sound of gobbling echoing across the sprawling property. Rows of weathered wooden coops stretched across 20 acres of farmland, housing over 500 turkeys in preparation for the approaching Thanksgiving rush. Wesley Granger, a 31-year-old city dweller from Charlotte, had arrived at the farm just 3 weeks earlier, desperate for employment after losing his office job. The farm owner had hired him as seasonal help, warning him about the aggressive nature of the tom turkeys. But Wesley had dismissed these concerns as rural exaggeration. His inexperience with livestock was evident in his nervous movements around large birds, though he tried to mask his unease with false bravado. The other farm workers had noticed his apprehension but assumed he would adapt with time. Wesley's urban background had provided no preparation for handling aggressive farm animals, and his overconfidence would prove deadly. The morning sun cast long shadows across the main turkey enclosure as Wesley approached the nestling boxes to collect eggs. The moment he stepped through the gate, the massive birds began converging on his location. Turkeys are highly territorial creatures, with adult toms weighing between 20 and 30 pounds, equipped with razor-sharp claws and powerful beaks capable of inflicting serious damage. Their natural instinct is to establish dominance through aggressive displays, and they possess an acute chase response triggered by sudden movements. These birds can reach speeds of up to 25 miles per hour when pursuing perceived threats. Wesley found himself surrounded by dozens of these imposing birds, their dark eyes fixed on his every movement. The lead tom turkey, a particularly large specimen with iridescent bronze feathers, puffed up its plumage and released a thunderous gobble that reverberated through the enclosure. Wesley attempted to shoo the birds away with his arms, but this only agitated them further. Panic seized him as more turkeys closed in, and he made the fatal decision to run toward the exit. His sudden movement triggered the flock's predatory chase instinct, and dozens of turkeys immediately gave pursuit. Their sharp claws scraped against the ground as they charged after him, wings flapping and beaks snapping. Wesley's legs pumped frantically as he sprinted across the uneven terrain, but the turkeys were faster than he anticipated. Their claws began raking across his calves and thighs, tearing through his work pants and opening bloody gashes. In his desperation to escape, Wesley failed to notice a metal feeding station directly in its path. His foot caught the edge of the structure, sending him crashing face first into the dirt. The impact knocked the wind from his lungs and left him momentarily stunned. The pursuing turkeys immediately swarmed over his fallen body like a writhing mass of feathers and fury. Their sharp beaks began targeting his most vulnerable areas, pecking relentlessly at his face and neck. Wesley instinctively raised his hands to protect his eyes, but this only exposed his forearms to the vicious assault. The turkey beaks punctured his skin repeatedly, creating hundreds of small but deep wounds that began bleeding profusely. Their claws raked across his back and shoulders, shredding his shirt and opening long gashes in his flesh. As Wesley weakened from blood loss, more turkeys joined the frenzied attack. They pecked through the soft tissue of his throat, severing major blood vessels and causing arterial bleeding. His attempts to crawl away only encouraged their aggressive behavior, as movement continued to trigger their attack response. The relentless pecking gradually wore down his strength until he could no longer defend himself. Wesley bled to death beneath the writhing mass of aggressive turkeys, his body covered in hundreds of puncture wounds from their beaks and claws. The farm owner discovered Wesley's body 2 hours later during his routine morning rounds. Local authorities launched an investigation into the incident, though they quickly determined it to be a tragic accident caused by inexperience and panic. The turkey flock was subsequently relocated to prevent similar incidents. Wesley's family struggled to comprehend how their loved one had met such an unusual fate, while the farming community rallied around Gobbler's Ridge Farm during the difficult aftermath. The incident served as a stark reminder of the potential dangers posed by seemingly harmless farm animals when proper precautions are not observed. Agricultural safety experts used the case to emphasize the importance of proper training for seasonal workers. The farm implemented new safety protocols requiring experienced supervision for all new employees. Wesley Granger's story was a grim reminder of how quickly farm animals can turn deadly when panic takes hold. For Caleb Whitmore, it wasn't aggressive birds he would face, but the ranch's most powerful residents that would test his fatal overconfidence. It was August 12, 2014, when Caleb Whitmore arrived at Thunder Creek Ranch in the heart of Texas Hill County. The sprawling 500-acre property stretched across rolling grasslands dotted with mesquite trees, its weathered wooden fences containing herds of semi-wild mustangs that had roamed these lands for generations. Dark storm clouds gathered on the horizon, casting ominous shadows across the ranch as evening approached. The air hung heavy with the humidity and the electric tension that precedes violent weather. Lightning flickered in the distance, while thunder rolled across the vast expanse of prairie. Caleb, a 29-year-old software engineer from Dallas, had driven out with his college friends for what was supposed to be a relaxing weekend retreat from city life. The group had rented cabins on the property, planning to experience authentic ranch living. However, Caleb's urban background left him completely unprepared for the realities of working with large animals. Ranch staff had repeatedly warned visitors about maintaining safe distances from the horses, especially during inclement weather when the animals became increasingly agitated. Despite these warnings, Caleb had been drinking throughout the afternoon and felt emboldened to prove his courage to his friends. The combination of alcohol and peer pressure created a dangerous cocktail of overconfidence that would prove fatal. His friends had tried to dissuade him from approaching the corral, but Caleb dismissed their concerns with reckless bravado, boasting about his fearlessness around animals and claiming he could handle any situation. Horses are powerful prey animals with an acute flight response developed over millions of years of evolution. These mustangs, weighing between 900 and 1,200 pounds each, possessed incredible strength in their muscular legs and hooves designed to carry them across vast distances at speeds of up to 50 miles per hour. When threatened or startled, horses instinctively bunch together and flee as a group, creating devastating stampedes that can crush anything in their path. Their hooves, hardened by constant contact with rocky terrain, can deliver bone-shattering blows with the force of a sledgehammer. The animal's heightened sensitivity to atmospheric pressure changes makes them particularly volatile during storms. Their fight-or-flight response is instantaneous and overwhelming, capable of transforming docile animals into deadly forces of nature within seconds. Storm conditions amplify their natural anxiety, making even the gentlest horses unpredictable and dangerous. The confined space of a corral during a stampede becomes a death trap, with nowhere for victims to escape the thundering hooves. As thunder rumbled overhead, Caleb made his fatal decision to climb over the corral fence where 20 mustangs had gathered for shelter. The wooden rails groaned under his weight as he dropped into the enclosure, landing directly in the center of the nervous herd. The horses immediately sensed the intrusion, their ears flattening against their heads as they shifted restlessly. Caleb stumbled forward with arms outstretched, attempting to touch the nearest mare despite her obvious distress signals. A brilliant lightning flash illuminated the sky, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. The lead mare reared up on her hind legs, her front hoof striking Caleb squarely in the chest with tremendous force. The impact launched him backward onto the muddy ground as his ribs cracked audibly. The entire herd exploded into panic, their survival instincts triggering a frenzied stampede around the confined space. Caleb desperately tried to crawl toward the fence as the first wave of horses thundered past him. A bay stallion's hoof came down on his left leg, the bone snapping with a sickening crunch as the full weight crushed through flesh and muscle. More horses followed, their hooves pounding relentlessly across his prone body. His ribcage collapsed under the repeated impacts, puncturing his lungs and crushing vital organs. Blood poured from multiple wounds as hoof after hoof struck his head and torso. The panicked animals continued their circular stampede, trampling over Caleb's motionless form again and again until his body was completely pulverized beneath their relentless assault. Ranch personnel discovered Caleb's remains after the storm subsided and the horses had finally calmed. Local authorities launched an investigation into the incident, ultimately ruling it an accidental death caused by failure to follow basic safety protocols. Thunder Creek Ranch implemented additional security measures to prevent future unauthorized access to animal enclosures. The tragic incident served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of large animals, even in seemingly controlled environments. The ranch continued operations but with stricter visitor guidelines and mandatory safety briefings. Insurance claims and legal proceedings followed, though no criminal charges were filed against the ranch owners. The incident prompted industry-wide discussions about visitor safety protocols at working ranches across Texas. Caleb Whitmore's death revealed the lethal force of panicked horses in confined spaces. For Maisie Hollowell, it wasn't wild Mustangs that posed the threat, but a seemingly harmless farm animal that would turn a family outing into an unthinkable tragedy. It was May 7, 2015, at Happy Valley Petting Farm in Oregon, where families gathered on a warm spring afternoon to celebrate birthdays and create memories with gentle farm animals. The 50-acre facility nestled in the Willamette Valley featured rolling pastures dotted with wooden fences and rustic barns, designed to give visitors an authentic farm experience. Established in 1987, the farm had maintained an exemplary safety record for nearly 3 decades, hosting thousands of school groups and birthday parties without serious incident. The property included designated picnic areas, gift shops, and educational displays about farm life that attracted families from across the Pacific Northwest. Weekend attendance typically peaked during spring months when newborn animals drew crowds of eager visitors. Maisie Hollowell, a 35-year-old suburban mother from Portland, had driven an hour with her 2 young children to celebrate their daughter's 4th birthday. Known among friends as an overprotective parent who often bent rules to ensure her children had the best experiences, Maisie viewed petting farms as completely safe environments where any interaction with animals was harmless. She had specifically chosen Happy Valley after reading online reviews praising its family-friendly atmosphere and well-maintained facilities. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the enclosures as families moved between paddocks containing goats, sheep, and miniature horses, while staff members reminded visitors to respect the posted boundaries and animal welfare guidelines. The farm's layout included clearly marked pathways and multiple warning signs, all designed to maintain safe distances between visitors and potentially dangerous animals. Llamas, members of the camelid family native to South America, stand up to 6 feet tall and weigh between 280 and 450 pounds. These intelligent animals possess powerful legs capable of delivering devastating kicks and bites that can crush bones with ease. Their necks contain dense muscle mass that provides incredible leverage for striking motions, while their teeth can tear through flesh and break human bones. Female llamas become extremely territorial and aggressive when protecting their young, called crias, displaying warning behaviors including ear pinning, spitting, and charging before escalating to physical attacks. Their maternal instincts override any previous docility, transforming them into formidable defenders willing to fight to the death against perceived threats. Unlike their smaller alpaca cousins, llamas were originally bred as guard animals, possessing natural aggressive tendencies that make them effective protectors of livestock herds. Their split upper lip and sharp incisors allow them to deliver crushing bites that can sever arteries and cause massive blood loss. During birthing season, mother llamas become particularly volatile and unpredictable around strangers. Maisie spotted a mother llama standing protectively near her week-old cria in a separate enclosure marked with multiple "Do Not Enter" signs and reinforced fencing. Determined to give her children an unforgettable birthday experience, she lifted her 4-year-old daughter over the wooden fence before climbing in herself, completely ignoring the posted warnings and the concerned shouts from nearby visitors. The 400-pound mother llama immediately positioned herself between the intruders and her vulnerable offspring, ears pinned flat against her head in an unmistakable threat display. When Maisie continued approaching with her arms outstretched, the llama expelled a stream of partially digested stomach contents directly into her face, temporarily blinding her with the acidic mixture that burned her eyes and nostrils. As Maisie stumbled backward, wiping her eyes, the enraged mother charged forward and struck her chest with tremendous force, sending her crashing to the ground with bone-jarring impact. The llama began stomping repeatedly on Maisie's torso with their front hooves, each impact delivering crushing pressure that cracked ribs and collapsed her chest cavity. The animal then seized Maisie's shoulder in her powerful jaws and shook violently, tearing through muscle tissue and shattering the clavicle while blood poured from the gaping wounds. As Maisie's strength rapidly faded, the llama continued her relentless assault, delivering crushing blows to Maisie's head and neck region. The final strike compressed her windpipe completely, cutting off her air supply as she suffocated while her terrified children watched helplessly from within the enclosure. Oregon State Police launched an immediate investigation into the incident, while Happy Valley Petting Farm temporarily closed its llama exhibit pending comprehensive safety reviews and policy changes. The Hollowell family released a brief statement requesting privacy during their time of grief, while animal welfare advocates called for stricter enforcement of visitor guidelines at petting facilities statewide. Farm management implemented additional security measures and increased staff supervision following the tragedy. The tragic death of Maisie Hollowell was a stark reminder that farm animals can turn deadly when protecting their young. For June McCrae, it wasn't an unfamiliar beast, but her own prize bull that would prove her confidence was fatally misplaced. It was March 15, 2014, when the morning mist clung to the rolling pastures of Millfield Ranch in the heart of Montana's cattle country. The 3,000-acre spread had been in operation for decades, its weathered barns and sturdy fencing testament to generations of livestock management. That crisp spring morning, the ranch buzzed with anticipation as preparations were underway for an important buyer visit scheduled later in the day. The prized breeding stock would be showcased, potentially securing lucrative contracts that could sustain the operation for years to come. June McCrae, a seasoned 34-year-old rancher, had spent over 15 years working with cattle across Montana's vast rangelands. Her reputation preceded her throughout the region as a confident handler who possessed an almost reckless fearlessness around even the most temperamental livestock. Colleagues often remarked on her ability to manage difficult animals through sheer determination and experience. That morning, June's primary responsibility involved the routine feeding of Thunder, the ranch's prized 2,000-pound Brahman bull whose impressive genetics commanded premium breeding fees. The morning routine had become second nature to June, who took pride in her ability to handle the massive animal without assistance. The Brahman breed originated from cattle imported from India in the early 1900s, specifically developed to withstand harsh climates and challenging conditions. These massive animals, distinguished by their prominent shoulder humps and loose skin, can weigh up to 2,200 pounds and stand 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Bulls of this breed are notoriously territorial and aggressive, particularly during breeding season or when their established routines are disrupted. Their incredible strength, combined with sharp horns and unpredictable temperament, make them among the most dangerous domestic animals on any ranch. Thunder exemplified these characteristics, having sired numerous offspring while maintaining his dominance over the ranch's breeding program. Thunder had been displaying increased agitation over the previous week following territorial disputes with the younger bulls in adjacent pens. The massive Brahmin had been pacing his enclosure, pawing the ground and emitting low, threatening bellows that echoed across the ranch. Despite these clear warning signs, June approached the morning feeding with her characteristic confidence, leaving her safety equipment in the barn. The rancher's familiarity with Thunder had bred a dangerous complacency that would prove fatal. As June climbed over the fence into Thunder's 50-yard enclosure, the bull stood at the far end, his massive frame silhouetted against the morning fog. The animal's head hung low, nostrils flared as he pawed the muddy ground with increasing intensity. June walked directly toward the feeding trough, carrying a metal bucket filled with grain and supplements. In a critical error of judgment, she turned her back to Thunder while pouring the feed. The moment June's attention diverted, Thunder lowered his massive head and launched into a devastating charge across the enclosure. The bull's 2,000-pound frame moved with surprising speed, covering the distance in seconds. Thunder's broad chest struck June squarely in the back with tremendous force, launching the rancher 15 feet through the air before she crashed into the muddy ground near the fence line. Despite the crushing impact, June remained conscious and attempted to crawl toward the safety of the fence. Thunder circled back with methodical precision, positioning himself over the injured rancher. The bull's massive front hooves came down repeatedly on June's torso, each impact crushing ribs and driving bone fragments into vital organs. The sickening sound of breaking bones echoed across the silent ranch as Thunder's weight compressed June's chest cavity. Thunder then lowered his head, driving his sharp horns deep into June's abdomen. The bull lifted the rancher's body completely off the ground, shaking her violently from side to side like a predator with prey. Blood poured from multiple puncture wounds as Thunder's horns tore through muscle and organs. When June's body finally went limp, Thunder continued his relentless assault, trampling and goring for several more minutes until the rancher's form was barely recognizable. Ranch hands discovered the scene 20 minutes later when they arrived for the morning shift. Emergency responders pronounced June dead at the scene, her injuries too severe for any possibility of survival. The local sheriff's department launched a routine investigation, though the circumstances were immediately clear to anyone familiar with livestock handling protocols. June's family released a brief statement acknowledging her lifelong passion for ranching while requesting privacy during their time of grief. The ranching community mourned the loss of an experienced cattlewoman whose confidence had ultimately proven fatal. Thunder was subsequently relocated to a more secure facility, his breeding career effectively ended by the tragic incident. June McRae's story was a devastating reminder of how quickly familiarity breeds fatal complacency. For Ellie Barrett, it wasn't domestic livestock, but a towering bird that would prove equally lethal. It was June 8, 2015, when the scorching Arizona sun beat down on Sunset Exotic Farm, a sprawling 200-acre facility nestled in the desert outskirts of Phoenix. The farm specialized in housing unusual animals for educational purposes, featuring everything from emus to zebras scattered across dusty paddocks surrounded by weathered wooden fencing. Ellie Barrett, a 28-year-old nature photographer from California, had driven 3 hours through the desert to reach this remote location, her camera equipment packed carefully in the back seat of her rental car. She had been commissioned by a wildlife magazine to capture images of exotic farm animals, and Sunset Exotic Farm promised the perfect subjects for her upcoming article. Ellie possessed an adventurous spirit but lacked extensive experience working with large animals, often prioritizing the perfect shot over personal safety. The farm's owner had granted her permission to photograph from outside the enclosures, but Ellie's ambitious nature would soon lead her beyond those boundaries. The afternoon heat shimmered off the metal roofing of nearby barns as she surveyed the various animal enclosures, searching for compelling photographic opportunities. Desert winds carried the scent of hay and animal musk across the facility, while the distant mountains provided a dramatic backdrop for her planned photographs. Ostriches are the world's largest birds, standing up to 9 feet tall and weighing over 300 pounds. These flightless giants possess incredibly powerful legs capable of generating forces exceeding 2,000 pounds per square inch with each kick. Their feet feature razor-sharp claws that can slice through flesh and bone with devastating efficiency. Male ostriches become particularly aggressive during breeding season, fiercely protecting their nesting territories from any perceived threats. These birds can run at speeds of 45 miles per hour and will attack anything that approaches their eggs or young. Their kicks have been known to kill lions and other large predators in their native African habitat. These birds possess excellent eyesight and can detect movement from considerable distances, making them formidable guardians of their territory. Their necks can extend rapidly to deliver powerful pecking attacks when threatened. During mating season, males become especially territorial and will defend their nest with lethal force against any intruder. Ellie spotted what appeared to be the perfect photographic opportunity when she noticed several large, cream-colored ostrich eggs nestled in a shallow depression near the corner of the main enclosure. The nest sat approximately 20 feet from the fence line, surrounded by sparse desert vegetation and small rocks. Without seeking permission, she slipped through the wooden fence rails, her camera raised and ready. The massive male ostrich, standing guard nearby, immediately detected the intrusion and positioned himself between Ellie and his precious nest. His black and white plumage bristled as he spread his wings wide, creating an intimidating display spanning nearly 8 feet. The bird issued a deep, threatening hiss while taking deliberate steps toward the photographer. Ellie, focused entirely on capturing the perfect shot, continued advancing despite the obvious warning signs. She crouched lower, attempting to frame the eggs in her viewfinder when her foot caught on a partially buried rock. She stumbled backward, arms flailing as she fought to maintain her balance. The sudden movement triggered the ostrich's attack instinct. The powerful bird lunged forward, raising his right leg high before driving it downward with tremendous force. His 3-inch claw penetrated Ellie's chest just below her collarbone, slicing through muscle and cartilage before puncturing her left lung. Blood immediately began filling her chest cavity as she gasped desperately for air. The ostrich withdrew his leg and struck again, this time targeting her abdomen. The impact ruptured internal organs and sent Ellie crashing to the ground. As she lay writhing in the dirt, struggling to breathe through her collapsed lung, the enraged bird continued his relentless assault. Each subsequent kick delivered bone-crushing force to her torso and limbs. Ellie's ribs cracked audibly under the repeated impacts, sharp fragments piercing her remaining lung and heart. The final strike came as she lay motionless, the ostrich's powerful leg descending directly onto her skull. The force crushed her cranium instantly, ending her suffering. The protective male then stood sentinel over her lifeless body, wings still spread in a threatening display. Farm workers discovered the gruesome scene 4 hours later during their evening rounds, finding Ellie's camera still clutched in her bloodied hands with the memory card intact. Local authorities launched an investigation into the incident, focusing on how Ellie had gained unauthorized access to the dangerous enclosure. The Arizona Department of Agriculture also conducted a thorough review of the farm's safety protocols and animal handling procedures. Her family released a brief statement expressing their grief while acknowledging her passion for wildlife photography had ultimately led to this tragic outcome. The farm implemented additional security measures to prevent future unauthorized entries, including higher fencing and warning signs in multiple languages. The ostrich responsible for the attack was relocated to a more secure facility away from public access. Just when you think farm animals are harmless, these stories prove otherwise. Click the next video now to see more shocking encounters with nature's unexpected predators.